All right, so you guys have watched me build all sorts of different cars and trucks on the channel, and I've always just done it in my garage here and in people's driveways. We've driven them all over North America. I've always done that just by picturing the vehicle in my head. I have CAD in my head because generally I'm the only one building it, but now there's more people involved and things are getting kind of complex. In this episode, we're 3D scanning the entire truck so that the engineers at BC can start routing all of the components for the wiring harnesses. But before we do that, we're focusing on the cooling system. That kind of dictates where everything else is being mounted. We need to keep the EV side a certain temperature and the engine at a certain temperature. And we want it to work in minus 40 degrees Celsius and plus 40 degrees Celsius for all of our trucks. So I'm excited about to show you all the hundreds and hundreds of hours of labor we've put into this thing. Let's get into it. Here we go. So we are taking GM 11-bolt axle to fit inside that. T&K did a really nice job putting this all together. So we're just gonna take it all apart again. Vince, without you, I can't do any of this. Your skills are amazing, man.
Yesterday we scanned the full chassis. We got all the body mounts.
The cab drops right back down on top of all of this, and you would never know that any of this is underneath that truck. All right, we got our radiators here for the Land Cruiser, and this kind of dictates exactly where the engine's gonna go and where everything's gonna go. Problem is, we had some custom radiators made. They've been working on them for 4 months, and originally every month or so I bugged them, hey, where's my radiator? And then they said, oh, we're working on it. And then every other week after a couple months, and then every week, and then every day, until they said that, yeah, we're just waiting for the shipper to come pick them up. And then I said, where's my tracking number? And then no answer, no answer, no answer. And then we called, and they said, oh, yeah, they leaked, they failed the test, so we threw them in the garbage and we got to start over. Which means they never started in the first place, which means that we can't ever do business with those people ever again. I don't understand people. So this radiator we bought, which is a close size. This is about the biggest radiator I could fit in there, except that the tanks are on the top. Now the tanks are going to be on the side. So we got to move the this. So now the flow is going to go from left to right. And if you think, well, it's meant to go top to bottom, you are right. But there's lots of radiators with the tanks on the side. The Dodge being one of them, the Cummins flows from left to right. It really doesn't matter as long as it's getting pushed through one way or another. Hot water on the top, cold water from the bottom, and that's the way she goes. So we're gonna take this all apart. We're gonna give Vince some welding to do. He's gonna love it. He's gonna absolutely love it. I'll show you guys what I have in mind. Here we go. All right, so this is exciting. We've got our radiator cores for our LC. These are brand new cores. I know what you're saying, Rich. Rich, why is there a skill saw on the table? Why is there leftover tanks on the side? It's completely unrelated. We have these brand new tanks that already have a little bit of weld on them just to get us started. What I did was make my own tanks, and then that radiator is going to sit on top of this one. And this one's got longer spouts on it. This will be the EV radiator, where it gets all of the original cooling, and then once in a while this radiator gets used when the engine turns on. Now we got to build this tank to fit around these spouts. That's why this is not. And Vince is going to absolutely love it, and we did our best, because if you notice the shop, we've redone this area a couple times, but this gets neglected. But Baxter here cleaned up the whole area. We got rid of the toolboxes at the top because we want this guy to stay happy. Are you happy, Vince?
What's going on? Where am I? Ooh, table.
And we thought we would make this your happy place. We're getting new steel, new aluminum, some decent equipment, and a nice clean table. Yeah, nice, eh?
Time coming.
Yeah. It's just a couple aluminum radiators today.
Yeah.
We'll get you going, and I think, I hope, should be relatively straightforward, but we'll get them all pressure tested before we put them in the truck, but yeah.
Very nice.
Here we go. Okay, so I always have trouble finding the 1 3/4 pipe. I found that, and I found some 2-inch pipe, but I couldn't find 2-inch pipe with a lip on it. So I had Vince weld the lip. I'm gonna have him weld this one in on the top, and I'm just gonna spin that up on the lathe. And basically, that's gonna go, this is where my other tank is gonna be. It's gonna protrude just nicely past that. And put my hose on there. And this tank will go around it, and then this one will go through on the bottom here because of the welds, right? So sit right about there. It's gonna be awesome. So this is the EV radiator, and that means that we've got our return on the top left in the engine bay, and we've got our feed going to our electric water pump on the bottom right. Now this radiator has to sit on top of that, and this will be the engine radiator. So this sits right like this, over just a little bit, because one tank is bigger than the other. The feed tank is slightly smaller because we gotta fill up the feed and push it over to the other side. So this is how the radiators were. So I'm just doing it the exact same. And then we made these custom tanks. So this one now goes here like this. Vince, you're gonna love this. This one goes here like this. And then we've got a big one here, and then that one there. And that's how I pictured it in my brain. Okay, so now they're gonna go into the engine. Now, the batteries run at about 35 degrees Celsius, and the engine runs at about boiling point, so about 212 degrees Fahrenheit and about 110 degrees Fahrenheit for the EV. Now, we've ordered a chiller to be able to cool the EVs and run the HVAC inside the cabin, but I'm still trying to figure out how, when the engine isn't running, we're able to plumb this radiator into the EV radiator and utilize another 4-core rad, so essentially 8 cores to cool the EV when the engine's not running. When the engine turns on again, isolate the radiators from each other and then circulate the coolant again in just the engine. We're not going to worry about that just yet, but it is something that I kind of want to keep in mind, whether that's for the Ram or for this on future builds. But for now, we're going to finish welding this up. Vince, without you, I can't do any of this. Your skills are amazing, man, that you can take this leftover pieces, weld them together, and make them work. So here we go. So this is the circle that I use to draw around my pipes. I just need a little piece to go around that. So just kind of follow that. Might have to go to something a little bit smaller maybe. And then hopefully that. So I need to go a touch more rounder. Biles has these shaping tools in their inventory. I think if just because that drip is there, I think if that's gone and we lay it inside, I think it'll be just right. Nice. Okay, so the rads are done. We're gonna start mounting those. Looks fantastic. I didn't weld that plate on yet because I'm not 100% sure where this is gonna go. We gotta mount it in the frame first. Right, for the radiator though, we need to attach the fans to our custom radiators, but we got a lip here So we got to put this little bend in here so it clears the lip, and we're able to riv nut into here. So what we do with that is bend this at a 90 in the brake, and then bend it back in the vise, and that puts that little bend in there, mark it, and then bend it on 90 again. I'll just trim the extra, put a little corner on it. Oh, it's wonderful. All right, we're at Jay Summers Service Center. It used to be Werner's Rad, right?
Still goes. Werner's Rad too.
Yeah, okay, right on. And so we dropped them off to get pressure tested and cleaned. How'd we do?
Excellent job.
Yeah?
Yep, couple little pinholes, but minor detail for all the work involved.
Yeah, so we had Vince just touch them up. There was like a couple, right where the seam kind of ended, where you got two different metals, and Vince was talking about the arc, like just, you're pointing the arc at it, you want to melt, and it's just like shooting, he's pointing, but he got it nice. Was there a lot of crap in it?
No, not bad at all.
Really?
Amazing work though.
Yeah, right on.
Yeah.
Well, appreciate that. So if you guys need some rad work done, you check them, build them, clean them, paint them.
Yep.
Right on.
Do it all.
Nice. Nice having local businesses that we can bring work to. So we're gonna put these together and finally mount them. So Vince is the man. He's always happy with his work. All right, load them up and good old Yoda, and away we go. Thanks, Jay.
Right on. Yeah. Take her easy.
Yeah. Okay, so on the LC, we're putting the front sump oil pan on, and this is a little disappointing because this is the factory one, which has the fitting in the front, right? And the pickup tube is built into the oil pan. This one has, this is the aftermarket, or well, this is still Cummins part number, but it makes it so it can be front or back. So it'd be nice if it came stock with this, because then you could switch it around. Because the one port that you're not using just gets blocked off by the engine block. So we're using this one and blocking that one off, but you could go this way and then it would find it from the front and block off the one in the back. So anyway, we'll throw this one on and ready to put this engine underneath the hood. Here we go. All right, so we've got our brackets made. I had to make a little extension in between here, put a couple bushings back there because the oil dipstick got in the way, and I can just make that work, but this is pretty far out, so I'm sure that will be fine. And then we'll brace this side, we'll brace it up against this frame here, and up against here. Get this one nice and tight. That's as low as I can possibly go. I can always go up, and then that's as close. We've got clearances measured in cardboard, and it'll be fine. It'll probably be fine. More than likely it'll be okay. All right, so this is the bracket that holds the mount in place for the generator, and it looks kind of crappy. All of it's just done on the bandsaw, but this is the one for the other side, and it's already finished. And if you just brace it, cut the corners off, it looks into a perfectly good, fine bracket. Nothing wrong with that. So we are gonna do the same to this, and it looks professional. It doesn't take much, just a little bit, cut the angles off, bam, a little bit of paint, off we go. All right, so we got the mounts in, all painted up and nice. Like there's a weld here, so I notch a little bit around the weld so that I've got a full back on there. I've got a plate on the top that hangs down over the side. So now this bracket is pulling and pushing against the bottom of this. It's pulling on there, so that's able to handle the weight on that. Now we've got that in place, so we've got the radiators in place, we've got the engine in place, we're gonna put the generator in, and this generator we're gonna put upside down. So the electronics are gonna be at the bottom. Now that's still not gonna be, it's gonna be up above the skid plate, so it's going to be absolutely fine, and it's definitely not going to be below the axle. So but what that allows us to do is not cut into the floor. Actually, we can if we want to, but it leaves the option that we don't. We're going to do that, and then we're going to drop the body back down again and then go from there. right, so what's nice about Toyota and why they're so strong is these cross members that go right through the frame and then connect the side to the other, from one side to the next, so this frame is able to take a whole pile of abuse. It's a shame if something happened to him. All right, so we got our frame kind of together here. We cut all of the supports off in the middle. We cut the shocks off and moved them to the back because the batteries are taking up the full length of this. There's a step in the cab, which is really nice because one battery is higher than the other. What that allows us to do is have the plugs coming out on the front of one and the back of the other. Chiller is gonna be there now. Fuel tank's gone. We're gonna get Vince to weld the fuel tank up for the outside the rail. That's the only spot we can put it. And I know what you're thinking at this point. You're like, we might as well just make a new frame, like a whole new chassis. And I 100% agree with you. I think we should. I think we should invest in a dual motor suspended by the chassis and then an independent suspension, because that would make this thing kick ass. But in the meantime, we're gonna throw the cab back on it again. So there's the battery. And I think we missed the step. Now that we cut the shocks out, we missed that step in the, you can see the ribs there. That is perfect. We got a little ways to go down there. But you see the battery and the step there? That's awesome. We got room for an intercooler above the engine. We're not hitting the oil pan. I can probably raise the engine a little bit. And the best part is underneath here. This is pretty sick. So if you look, the battery hangs down no lower than the lowest spring shackle. The battery is low enough that all the wiring comes out right about here below this battery. And then there's a big step up in the cab, and the other battery goes right behind that and fits right up in front of that axle there. This is all super exciting with the weight of the cab and everything on it. We're gonna start mounting some other places. I'm gonna lift that engine up a hair. But what I did was put a block of wood, the width and the length and the height of the intercooler. So I'm gonna make a couple shims for on the bottom of the mount, because we can go up a full inch on the front and probably a bit more on the back. So that'll give me more clearance on top of the oil pan, and we've got all the room on the back on the generator. So then we can start making our hoses. All right, so we've taken our Land Cruiser and I've mounted the engine, the radiator, the axles, and we have mock-up batteries. Now this is very cool things, because now I get to tell CAD what I did. What I mean by that is Peter's here from Edison, and we're gonna 3D scan the frame and everything that I've done so far. And that allows us to put the different control units in there and start figuring out how long of wiring harnesses they're gonna need to make in BC on the other side of the country. All right, so tools that used to be $50,000 plus not too long ago are now less than 800 bucks on Amazon. We've got a 3D scanner.
Shining 3D Einstar. Yeah, it's a pretty sweet little unit. You can pick it up on Amazon, wherever. Does full color and then 1mm accuracy.
To scan your entire project, throw it into CAD, and then fancy machines like plasma cutters can cut it out for you, rather than a grinder and a bandsaw. So yeah, let's get into it. Here we go.
So now I'm under the LC here. Yesterday we scanned the full chassis, we got all the body mounts, and now we're gonna scan the actual body so that we can bring the two together in CAD. We want to make sure that there's enough clearance for the battery, all the little individual MCUs underneath the cab. So we're gonna start, and you can see on my screen over here that preview. It's getting that full color. You can see all that Dubai sand and dirt underneath. But you can see just how fast I'm able to cover huge areas with this scanner, and the detail it's picking up is pretty unreal. So that we'll be absolutely sure we're gonna have enough space for all our coolant lines, high voltage lines, our CAN bus planning. I mean, that's huge alone, because the CAN bus, it has to be pretty specifically laid out so that there's no interference or issues with the network. And so this allows us to send this scan back to our electrical engineers in BC, and they'll be able to remotely plan out that CAN bus and send us some drawings back, and then we can get everything wired up before this truck even heads over to BC. The one thing with these scanners is they really don't like shiny objects. So it needs to be able to reflect back the light to make a measurement. So you can see this little unistrut bracket here. It's not gonna like picking up. So we have this little scan spray, and it just makes everything nice and matte. And then it magically disappears in about 4 hours, so that you don't have to wipe it up, you don't have to clean it up. But that stuff is super handy. Pretty wild, the color, how accurate it is picking up all those colors and stuff. You can see we started sort of half the scan now, and I want to keep going. I just hit the play button, and then it'll automatically locate on the previous scan. So you can see it already found itself, and then I can just keep going and add detail. So if there's a specific area that I'm missing something and I want to add to it, it's really easy to just quickly reconnect and add that detail in that specific area. It's basically overlaying what it's seen in real time on the data you've already scanned and matching the geometry.
That's cool. So you can literally, like, you could have your truck raised up, lower it back down,
and
keep scanning.
going. Yeah.
Like the top side of it.
Exactly. So I think that's what we're planning on doing with this one, is get the bottom and then have at least some overlap area that we can locate the scan once we lower the cab down, and then we can keep going and scan more of the interior as well. So yesterday we finished the scan of both the underside of the cab on the LC as well as the chassis. So as you can see here, the scan's all ready to get exported as an STL. So all I have to do is hit this button over here, and then it gives us a bunch of simplification options, because if I tried to put this entire scan into my CAD software, it would not be pretty happy with me. So we're able to turn down the resolution in the sort of wide open areas like this. So it'll simplify it a ton. So it'll be wide open triangles. And then in the corners, it'll save a lot of detail. But so I can specify how large of a file I want, and then it'll do all the processing, all the math for me. It's all about balance of how fast I want my CAD software to run and how detailed I want the file to be. So the software has worked its magic in the background, and it has given us this nice simplified 3D file, which my CAD software will be able to handle. So I'm able to export it. You can save it onto my computer, and you can pick what kind of file you want to save as, STL, OBJ. If you're familiar with 3D printing or CAD, you'll probably recognize those names. Here at Edison, we've been using Onshape. It's sort of like a CAD software plus Google Docs combined. So it's all web-based. While Lee, our co-op student here in Ontario, is working on the file, I can check it from BC when I go back. I can also make edits and comment on what he's been doing. We can do it in real time. We've already started working on the fuel tank, and it's pretty handy because we can easily check clearances. So a couple of the body brackets for the side steps there are interfering with our fuel tank, so we're gonna have to make some adjustments super quickly there. But now we have a complete picture of how the LC is sitting today, and we'll be able to add all the batteries, all the controllers, make sure everything's mapped out properly. We can even design our wiring harness in Onshape. We use Onshape's wiring features to create our wire lengths and send that off to our wire harness manufacturers. So it's a super useful tool, super powerful.
This was my my little living room that we hung out. There's the LS coffee table, but I blew a hole in the piston, so I had to steal a piston. It's actually back in the Audi again. And this is Lee.
Hello, I'm Lee. I'm working for Edison. I'm building here in CAD. I'm putting all the components in. So you can see, you saw at some point the 3D scan of the chassis and the box and the frame. So here we are working with that in the Onshape. I've put in the inverter, the 3-in-1, the PDU, and behind that is hiding in there is a motor controller, the generator controller. We have the batteries and the brackets and all the important components that go into making this car. So the engineers in BC are hopefully going to work with this and make a wiring harness. We also put in the engine here. You can see the generator attached to the back, and you can see all the 3D scanned mounts for the generator and for the engine that Rich made. This allows us to work with all of that and hopefully eventually make it more of a production model where we can just fire off these brackets on the laser cutter, and yeah, have them in a production setting.
So Lee is pushing hard for a laser cutter because he's sick of hearing all the grinders going down underneath it.
All the metal dust getting in my computer screen here. They come up.
It's not magnetic
and stick to the magnets.
It's not magnetic. I was gonna say it's not magnetic, is it?
Yeah, no, it does. It sticks to the top of the screen. It's pretty funny. I just have to wipe it off a couple times a day.
All right, so we got a clean slate here. We knocked off the brackets that were connecting cross members, and now we made our own cross members. So very simple, just a nice 45. We are going to weld in place here, and what that has is going to have a ledge and then angle iron with a tab sticking out, basically a frame to hold the battery up that it gets bolted to. We made it taller and we made it longer than it had to be because we can always cut it.
Yep.
And then two of them are longer.
This one's
Okay, so that has to go between these frame rails here. So basically that's going to go right here. And what that's going to do is we're going to run a cross member across the top. So we're going to add 2 more cross members, and then because we cut 2 out. But again, remember that there's no twisting through this frame with the torsion from the engine. So yeah, because when you have an engine and you want to twist this to make your tires turn, this is going to resist the twisting. So you ever see the transport truck poles when the trucks take off? With the electric, you don't have that because it's all on the axles themselves, right?
So do you have to beef up the axles then?
Yeah, we do have to put ladder supports on the ram. This one will probably be okay. The leaf springs, I don't think are going to go anywhere.
No, I wouldn't think so.
No. So we're going to drop the cab back down again. We're going to make those brackets, and then we can also get going on the exhaust. Now, the cooling system, basically, we've got waiting for a couple hoses to go into the water pump. The water pump is coming up and over and down, and then it's going to go to the cooling block here that's going to supply everything. And then on the other side, we've got this little bracket that comes down along the side and then goes up underneath here. We got a little mount there, and then that is going to be the return. So another cooling block here. It's going to take all the heat from the generator, the axles, and the batteries, and then put them back into the radiator in the front. So things are moving. So here we go. All right, so we got all hands on deck. We've got the braces all welded solid. We put a couple plates in the bottom here yet, just for extra strength, because all the battery's gonna be sitting on here. We're running out of real estate for running wires and whatever else, so we made these plates just with a bunch of universal holes in there. We're gonna be welding those in here just so that we have a place to run all of our high voltage wires and cooling lines beside the battery. All right, so we've got all the mounts made for the batteries themselves. Now the batteries are on a sea container on a boat somewhere making their way over, but we got to keep going. Now the nice thing about these battery holders are that I'm sitting on a ledge here, and we built it on a heavy frame, so the battery sits in this frame, and that actually, when it's bolted, will connect the bottom of the frame together, and we've got a support along the top. A lighter one on the top, on the back, but a really heavy one on the front. And then we have another heavy one here that connects the frame together. So it acts like a frame stiffener. But the battery is still isolated inside the frame on its own rubber bushings in there. And then I left some room for the batteries to put that bushing in between. Now to take the batteries out, or install them, you just have to unbolt it, slide it back 3 inches, and then drop it down. So the front battery has to come out first, and then the back battery has to slide 3 inches ahead, and then we can tilt it down and go above the axle and take it out that way. So what's nice is that this vehicle can run without the batteries, so we can drive it, and then they can easily install the batteries anywhere where they need to be. We can put quick connects on the hoses, so that you can just unplug the hoses, no coolant spills anywhere, turn all the connections off so no power goes anywhere, disconnect the batteries, unplug the one wire harness, and the whole thing drops in and out. You can change the batteries in these things, I'm hoping in less than 30 minutes. Okay, we're onto the cooling system. We've got all of our welding kind of figured out for our battery mounts, and now we got to start placing components. So our engine is where it's going to be, our radiators are done. Now we got to figure out the cooling system, and each one of these components needs to have coolant flowing through them. So generator, batteries, axles, and the MCUs to run them as well, including the inverter. So from the start here, we've got this really nice manifold that Edison had made up. Basically, they've got the transport truck sizing for me to deal with. So this looks way more bigger than it needs to be. And this is gonna sit right here. It's angled just to miss here. So this is a bolt, I just didn't have a bolt long enough, so we can just thread it in. You can service this. This cooling line goes all the way from the water pump. Unfortunately, my exhaust has to come through here too, and they both have to kind of go under this mount and not touch each other. So instead of going around the mount, I'm going to go through the mount with this one-piece fitting to connect my nice malleable soft hose to my more rigid durable hose that's easily accessible, being able to unscrew the fittings on there. So I'm going to cut a nice little hole through here, make this fitting structural, and that points out just in the right spot to be able to miss my floor. Now the generator doesn't need cooling when it's not running, so we are either going to go with engine oil pressure to open a pilot operated relief valve, or just a temperature sensor, so when the generator warms up, it would open the valve and allow cooling to go through. We don't need cooling through here when the engine's not running. We want to utilize all that nice cool coolant for the rest of the system. So from here, it's going to split off and feed the axles and the different components that are going to be in the bed. So the only thing that the plumbing doesn't cool or warm up is the batteries, and we have a chiller for that, but we're going to get into that in another episode when we have the chiller here. But basically that maintains the optimal temperature for the batteries, so they work in minus 40 degrees Celsius and plus 40 degrees Celsius. In the meantime, I'm going to cut in my structural fitting and start laying the groundwork for the plumbing. Got to keep in mind that we got to keep the voltage on one side and the CAN bus on the other so they don't interfere with each other. Lots to think about, but it's nice seeing it all come together finally. All right, exhaust here, water here. That should be enough of a distance. We can put a little heat shield on here if we really have to. I don't think we have to. So we got Vince taking up the exhaust, making that look beautiful, as he always does. So we're gonna put the exhaust up the side, and we're gonna put the muffler underneath the steps. But then we got the pipe going through here, just tacked for now, and then the water line running down the back to the manifold. For now, these are just pieces that I have. We're just a little pipe in between. We'll just hose clamp that into the exact place that we need it to be. We can bend that to fit the perfect contour of the frames and all the different frames. So again, this prototype, this is not anything how complicated the installs are gonna be. This is just to make sure the systems work. Okay, so we've got the two radiators bolted back together again. We got a seal in between the two, just to keep as much air away from that as possible. And now, of course, that hits my steering. So we took the steering box off, and this is the pitman arm, and it just doesn't quite go low enough. So went on the old Facebook forums and realized that a Series 60 has the same steering box and has a drop pitman arm. This is the inch that we need. Just that little bit that will drop it down enough. So we'll pull this one off, we'll pop it on there, and then we can throw the rad back in it again and keep going on the cooling system. There we go. that's just weird because it just drops it just the perfect amount. Ah, that was hitting before. That is absolutely fantastic. We got a little bit more steering to go. We're just gonna connect these hoses together, and then we've got electric power steering to go in there. But that's once we get the cab back down again. So that's awesome. All right, so we've got our radiators here. So your engine radiator is super simple, which is just this one right here. You got your overflow tank right here. And we don't have to have any plumbing to go into the cab for the heat because that comes from the chiller, which is at the other end. So let's work from the front to the back. Got our EV chiller here. You still need my suction line to go from the bottom up to my water pump. This is high voltage water pump. That is going to run from our 600 volt system and step down to whatever this thing calls for. It's the engineer's problem. It works around the exhaust so that none of them touch. And we got a T-fitting here that goes into the generator because the generator creates the most heat. From there, that tees back into the return line, which goes on the opposite side, but we'll follow this through. It was pretty tight. So I went through the generator mount and then went off onto the side. Now this is 1.5 inches, very big hoses, very tight hoses. We got these Granger clamps that work really, really well, and it just fits underneath. We got our manifold here, and I had to angle that down just because this was a bit tight here yet. And from there, it tees off, like it comes out of the manifold and feeds various components. So we've got a big fitting towards the back. That's going to go towards the chiller. And like we said, we'll get into that later, but that controls the battery temperature. All of these components go and feed the MCU cooler. These two, one is going to be for the axle controller, one is going to be for the inverter and the 3-in-1, which is in the box. From there, it just goes over to the other frame rail and goes back to the front. Now, I know that this looks complicated, and I agree, but you don't know until you try. As we're already building this, the components are already getting smaller. The generator controller is now built into the generator in the next version already, and the motor control unit is now already being built into the axles. So we've got a lot less components already. So we are looking into building new chassis for pickup trucks, but in the meantime, we're gonna prove our kit and that it moves the vehicle and doesn't overheat and has the emission and the fuel saving numbers that we hope for. And that's why I'm building it, putting the cab up and down 20 times and taking it to the dyno and getting real world numbers and driving the Ram from here all the way to BC. So I know that it is what it is, not just a calculated number, and I won't sell any of the kits until the Ram pulls the Airstream all the way to BC. That's happening this fall, and we're really, really excited about that. Planning that trip, we're gonna put tracking on the vehicle so you know exactly where we are. We're gonna make as many stops as we can throughout Canada, so all the way from Ontario to British Columbia, and we'll have lots of meetups and get-togethers, and we'll probably break down along the way. That's all part of it. But I feel very confident, very much looking forward to that. So thank you guys for watching. Put all your comments down below. We read them all. We take them all into consideration. A lot of the stuff we've already thought before, but I still want to hear it and listen to your concerns and make sure that we address that. I will be in BC for the 14th. We're having the investors get together there, and I'll be doing a presentation on the Ram and the Land Cruiser there. You can meet me in person and see all the Edison boys out there as well. So thanks for watching, guys. Hope to see you guys there. If not, we'll see you on the next video. There we go.